Which one of you wants to try first? Three masked men, a dark alley, and Jasmine Brooks had maybe 10 seconds to decide if she'd live through the night. But before she could move, before she could breathe, a shadow tore through the darkness. 5 seconds. All three attackers hit the ground. And standing there, breathing like a weapon, was the quiet man she married 2 months ago, Kang Dae-hyun. Except tonight, he wasn't quiet. He wasn't gentle. He moved like he'd been trained to kill. "Pack a bag," he said, scanning rooftops like a soldier in enemy territory. "They know I'm alive." If you believe nobody should be hunted for escaping a life they never chose, hit subscribe to Ebony and Pearl Stories. Only people who support corruption and betrayal won't subscribe. Jasmine's mind raced as Dae-hyun gripped her arm, guiding her back toward the apartment entrance. But something was different. Everything was different. The man she married moved like liquid through shadows, checking corners she didn't know existed, positioning himself between her and every possible threat. "Dae-hyun, what is happening?" "Not here." His voice was calm but firm, eyes scanning rooftops, parked cars, windows. "We talk when we're safe." Safe? They were in their own building. But then she noticed the way he angled his body at every turn, the way his hand hovered near his waistband where she now realized he'd been carrying something she'd never seen before. A weapon. Her husband, the quiet, gentle man who worked low-level security, was armed, and he knew exactly how to use it. Jasmine's thoughts drifted back to the day they first met nearly a year ago. She'd been working as a medical support officer for a private security firm. It was supposed to be a normal afternoon, until a client's unstable brother stormed into the building, shouting threats, waving a knife. Before security could react, Dae-hyun stepped in. One movement. Calm. Controlled. Precise. The threat was neutralized in seconds. Afterward, he didn't brag. Didn't even raise his voice. He just turned to Jasmine and said quietly, "You should be safer. I can walk you to your car." That was all. No backstory. No explanations. Just a kind offer from a man who seemed to carry invisible weight in his silence. They started talking after that. Coffee during lunch breaks. Quiet conversations about nothing important. He never mentioned his family. Never talked about his past. Never took photos. Never appeared on social media. And Jasmine, exhausted from the chaos of her own demanding job, found comfort in his stillness. They married in a courthouse ceremony 2 months ago. No guests on his side. No big celebration. Just a simple ring, a quiet promise, and the hope of a peaceful future. But as Dae-hyun pushed her into the stairwell, moving with the precision of someone who'd rehearsed this escape 1,000 times, Jasmine realized something terrifying. She didn't know this man at all. They reached the underground parking garage. Dae-hyun opened the door to a car she'd never seen before, a dark sedan with tinted windows, parked in a spot he'd clearly reserved long before tonight. "Get in," he said. Jasmine slid into the passenger seat, her heart pounding as Dae-hyun started the engine and pulled out onto the street. But he didn't just drive. He executed evasive maneuvers, sudden turns, double back routes, speed adjustments that forced anyone following to reveal themselves. Jasmine had seen this before. During her time working with private security, she'd been trained to recognize tactical driving. Military-grade tactical driving. "Where did you learn to drive like this?" she asked, her voice barely steady. Dae-hyun didn't answer immediately. His eyes never left the mirrors. Finally, after what felt like an eternity of silence, he spoke. "Jasmine, I need to tell you something." She turned to face him fully now, fear and confusion battling in her chest. "4 years ago," Dae-hyun said quietly, his knuckles white on the steering wheel, "I died." Jasmine blinked. "What?" "At least," he continued, his voice hollow, "that's what the world believes." He glanced at her briefly before turning his eyes to the road. "I was born into the Huksa clan, a Korean Mafia syndicate. My father was the boss. I was supposed to inherit everything." Jasmine's breath caught in her throat. "But I didn't want that life," Dae-hyun continued. "I tried to leave, and the night I did, my older brother, Kang Dae-sun, tried to kill me." His jaw tightened. "I survived. Barely. And I faked my death to escape. I became nobody. A security worker. Someone invisible." He finally looked at her again, And for the first time since she'd known him, she saw something raw in his eyes. Everything I told you was true, Jasmine. My feelings, my intentions. I wanted a normal life. I wanted peace. And me? Jasmine whispered. Was I part of the plan? No. His voice was firm now. You were the first real thing I'd had in 4 years. The first person I trusted. The first person I thought I could build a future with. He paused, but someone found me, and now they know you exist too. Jasmine stared at him, this stranger wearing her husband's face, and felt the ground beneath her entire life shift. Who were those men? She asked. I don't know yet, Dahyun admitted, but they weren't random thugs. They were sent to confirm something, to verify I'm alive. He pulled the car into an empty side street and killed the engine. In the sudden silence, Dahyun turned to her fully. Jasmine, I'm sorry. I thought I could protect you by keeping you away from all of this, but I was wrong. Jasmine's hands trembled in her lap. What happens now? Dahyun's expression hardened. Now we find out who sent them, and we make sure they never get the chance to come after us again. If you stand against people who hunt innocent lives just for power and control, drop a subscribe and comment what time you're watching this. Let Marcus Hale and every manipulator know that we don't support betrayal and corruption. The safe house was tucked away in a forgotten corner of the industrial district, a nondescript building that looked abandoned from the outside but was fully functional within. Dahyun unlocked 3 separate deadbolts before pushing the door open. Jasmine stepped inside and froze. The place was stocked, fully stocked. Canned food-lined metal shelving units. Bottled water was stacked against the far wall. Medical supplies sat neatly organized in labeled containers. A weapons locker stood in the corner, secured with a combination lock. This wasn't thrown together in a panic. This had been prepared long before tonight. Long before her. How long has this place been here? Jasmine asked quietly. Dahyun secured the door behind them, checking each lock twice. 3 years. Jasmine turned to face him. 3 years. You've been planning for this alone. The entire time. He didn't deny it. I never thought I'd need to bring anyone here. I thought if I stayed invisible long enough, they'd forget I existed. But they didn't. No, Dahyun said, his voice heavy. They didn't. He gestured for her to sit at the small table in the center of the room. Jasmine lowered herself into the chair, her mind still racing, trying to process everything that had happened in the last hour. Dahyun sat across from her, finally meeting her eyes fully. You deserve the whole truth, he said. Jasmine crossed her arms. I think I've earned that. Dahyun exhaled slowly, as if releasing years of buried weight. I was born into the Huksa clan, one of the most powerful Korean Mafia syndicates in Asia. My father was the boss. My older brother, Kang Dae-sung, was supposed to be his successor. But my father, he saw something in me. Leadership, strategy, control. He paused, his jaw tightening. When my father named me heir instead of Dae-sung, everything changed. My brother felt cheated, humiliated. And the night I told him I didn't want the inheritance, that I wanted out of that life entirely, he saw his opportunity. Jasmine leaned forward slightly. He tried to kill you. He staged it perfectly, Dahyun continued. Made it look like a rival syndicate ambushed me. Hired professionals. Left me for dead in a warehouse fire. But you survived. Barely. Dahyun's voice was cold now. I woke up in a hospital under a fake name. And I realized if I went back, Dae-sung would finish what he started. So I didn't go back. I let the world believe I was dead. Jasmine absorbed this, her analytical mind piecing together the puzzle. That's why you never took photos. Why you avoided social media. Why you worked low-profile jobs. Every precaution, Dahyun confirmed. No digital footprint. No paper trail. No connections to my past. And marrying me? Jasmine asked, her voice steady but searching. Was that part of cover? Dahyun's expression softened for the first time since the attack. No, you were the first real choice I made in 4 years. The first thing that wasn't about survival. I thought maybe if I built something normal, something good, I could finally leave that world behind for good. Jasmine sat back, processing everything. She didn't cry. didn't panic, didn't collapse into emotion. Instead, she asked the questions that mattered. Who sent those men tonight? I don't know yet. Why come after you now? After 4 years? That's what I need to find out. What changed? Jasmine pressed. Something must have triggered this. They don't just randomly find a dead man after 4 years. Dae-hyun looked at her with something close to respect. You're right. Something changed. Someone exposed me. The question is who and why now? Before Jasmine could respond, a phone on the table buzzed violently. Both of them froze. It wasn't Dae-hyun's phone. It wasn't hers either. It was a burner phone, one of several Dae-hyun kept in the safe house for emergencies. The screen lit up with a single message from an unknown number. We found you. Both of you. Dae-hyun's eyes went cold. Get down. Now. What? The windows exploded inward. Smoke grenades tumbled across the floor, hissing as thick gray clouds filled the room. Boots pounded against concrete outside. Shouting voices barked orders in English and Korean. Dae-hyun grabbed Jasmine's arm and yanked her toward the back wall. Stay close to me, he shouted over the chaos. He slammed his palm against what looked like a solid panel, and it popped open, a hidden escape route. Jasmine's heart hammered as Dae-hyun pulled her into a narrow maintenance tunnel, the sounds of boots and shouting growing louder behind them. They moved fast through the darkness. Dae-hyun navigating by memory, every turn precise, every step calculated. Jasmine realized something terrifying as they ran. He'd memorized this route long before tonight. He'd always expected to be hunted. He'd always planned alone. He'd never expected to need anyone. But now she was here, and everything had changed. They emerged into a storm drain system beneath the industrial district, the sound of rushing water echoing around them. Dae-hyun finally stopped, breathing hard, listening for pursuit. Jasmine leaned against the damp concrete wall, trying to catch her breath. Dae-hyun, she said quietly. Those men, they weren't speaking Korean. He turned to her sharply. What? I heard them shouting orders in English. American accents. Dae-hyun's expression darkened. This isn't my brother's doing, he said slowly, the pieces falling into place. Someone else is after us. Jasmine's blood ran cold. Who? Dae-hyun's jaw clenched as he stared into the darkness of the tunnel ahead. I don't know, but whoever they are, they know everything. The abandoned warehouse reeked of rust and decay. Shattered windows let in pale moonlight that cast long shadows across broken machinery and scattered debris. Dae-hyun crouched behind a concrete pillar, pulling Jasmine down beside him. They'd been moving through the industrial district for over an hour, staying off main roads, avoiding cameras, keeping to the shadows. But they couldn't run forever. Dae-hyun reached into his jacket and pulled out one of the radios he'd taken from an attacker during their escape from the safe house. He switched it on, keeping the volume low. Static crackled. Then voices emerged, clipped, professional, coordinating movements. Team 2, secure the northern perimeter. Team 3, sweep the warehouse district. He can't have gone far. Jasmine's entire body went rigid. She knew that voice. Dae-hyun, she whispered, her throat tight. Let me hear that again. He turned up the volume slightly. Repeat. Target is not to be harmed. We need him alive. The woman is secondary but useful as leverage. Do not engage lethally unless absolutely necessary. Jasmine's hands began to shake. Jasmine. Dae-hyun studied her face. What is it? She swallowed hard. That voice, the one giving orders. You recognize it? Marcus Hale. Her voice was barely audible. My former boss. Dae-hyun's expression hardened instantly. Your boss? From the security firm. Yes. Jasmine's mind raced, pieces of a terrible puzzle snapping together. He was the operations director. I reported to him for 2 years before I quit. Dae-hyun grabbed her shoulders, gently but firmly. Why did you quit? Jasmine closed her eyes, the memories flooding back. I was a medical support officer. My job was to assess injuries, analyze combat effectiveness, calculate recovery times for personnel. It was supposed to help keep people safe. She opened her eyes, meeting Dae-hyun's gaze. But Marcus started using my reports differently. He'd asked me to evaluate specific high-profile clients, politicians, business executives, people with enemies. At first, I thought it was standard security protocol. But it wasn't, Dae-hyun said quietly. No. Jasmine's voice grew bitter. I started noticing patterns. People I'd assessed would get attacked weeks later, always at their most vulnerable moments. Injuries that matched the weaknesses I'd documented in my reports. Dae-hyun's jaw clenched. He was selling your intelligence. Worse, he was using it himself, building a network, targeting people strategically. When I figured it out, I confronted him, threatened to go to the authorities. And he smiled at me, Jasmine said, her voice hollow, told me I was too smart for my own good. 2 days later, I submitted my resignation. 3 days after that, federal investigators raided the company. But Marcus was already gone, vanished before they could arrest him. Dae-hyun processed this rapidly, and now he's working with my brother. It's not a coincidence, Jasmine said, the full picture becoming clear. Marcus doesn't do anything without planning. He must have been tracking me, discovered I married you, researched you, found out who you really are, and saw an opportunity, Dae-hyun finished grimly. The radio crackled again. Mr. Hale, we've located movement near the shipping yards. Thermal signatures match 2 individuals. Marcus's voice came through, smooth and confident. Excellent. Deploy teams. Remember, Kong Dae-hyun alive. His wife is simply a bonus. Mr. Kong is paying well for his brother's return. Jasmine and Dae-hyun locked eyes. He's working with Dae-sung, Jasmine whispered. They're using you to draw me out, Dae-hyun said, and using me to settle your score with Marcus. Our pasts didn't just collide, Jasmine said slowly. They were connected, by design. They had no choice but to move. Staying in the warehouse meant getting trapped. Dae-hyun led them through back alleys and loading docks, heading toward the shipping yards where massive containers provided cover and escape routes. But Marcus's teams were coordinated, professional. They were herded exactly where Marcus wanted them. Jasmine realized at the moment they entered the shipping yard, the positioning was too perfect, the routes too convenient. It's a trap, she said. I know, Dae-hyun replied, but we don't have a choice. Floodlights blazed to life, bathing the yard in harsh white light. Armed men emerged from behind containers, surrounding them in a tightening circle. Dae-hyun positioned himself in front of Jasmine, hands raised but ready. There's no way out this time, Dae-hyun, one of the men called out. Mr. Hale wants you both alive. Don't make this harder than it needs to be. The men advanced slowly, weapons trained but not firing. One got too close. Jasmine saw the stun baton hanging from his belt. In one fluid motion, she grabbed it, twisted away from Dae-hyun's protective stance, and struck. She didn't hit randomly. She struck the man's brachial plexus, the nerve cluster in the shoulder. His entire arm went numb, and he dropped his weapon with a strangled cry. Before the others could react, Jasmine swept his legs and dropped him to the ground. Dae-hyun stared at her, stunned. Jasmine, where did you learn that? She straightened, gripping the baton, eyes sharp and focused. I told you, I assess combat injuries, nerve damage, recovery times. You can't analyze something without understanding how it works. Another attacker lunged. Jasmine sidestepped, struck his radial nerve, and watched him crumple. Marcus trained me to identify weaknesses, she said, her voice cold. He just never expected me to use that knowledge against his people. Dae-hyun moved beside her, no longer treating her as someone to protect, but as an equal. How much did he know about you? Dae-hyun asked as they positioned back to back. Everything, Jasmine said. My skills, my morals, my limits. He studied me for years. And me? If he's working with your brother, then he knows everything about you too. Your training, your weaknesses, your history. Dae-hyun's expression darkened as the full scope of the threat became clear. He's been planning this for years, he said quietly. Yes. Jasmine's voice was steady but grim. Marcus doesn't just want revenge. He wants to erase anyone who ever stood against him. You, me, anyone who threatened his control. Dae-hyun met her eyes, and something shifted between them. A silent understanding, a mutual recognition of strength. Then we take the fight to him, he said. Jasmine nodded. Together. The remaining attackers hesitated, clearly not expecting resistance from both targets. In that moment of hesitation, Daehyun and Jasmine moved as one, fast, coordinated, lethal. They carved a path through the circle, not stopping to engage, just creating enough chaos to break free. They disappeared into the maze of shipping containers as shouts and pursuit erupted behind them. As they ran, Jasmine's mind was already working. Marcus Hale and Kong Dae-sung, two powerful enemies now allied. But alliances built on greed and revenge were fragile. And if there was one thing Jasmine understood, it was how to find weakness, even in the most dangerous men. If you stand against manipulators like Marcus Hale who exploit and erase people for power, drop a subscribe and comment justice over corruption. Only those who support betrayal and control won't engage. The message came through on a disposable phone Marcus had left in their escape route. Another calculated move. Daehyun read it aloud, his voice tight with controlled rage. Trade yourself for your wife at midnight. The old industrial docks. Come alone or she dies. Jasmine looked at him. He doesn't have me. I know. Daehyun's jaw clenched, which means he has someone else. The phone buzzed again. An image loaded slowly on the screen. Jasmine's blood turned to ice. Lonnie, her younger cousin, barely 21, the girl Jasmine had been raising since her parents died 3 years ago, sat bound to a chair in what looked like a warehouse. Her eyes were wide with fear, tape across her mouth. No. Jasmine's voice cracked. No, not her. How did he? He's been watching you for years, Daehyun said grimly. He knew exactly who mattered to you. Another message appeared. Midnight. Alone. Or little Lonnie pays for both your sins. Jasmine grabbed the phone, her hand shaking. I'm going. No. She's there because of me. Jasmine's voice rose. Because I stood up to Marcus. Because I married you. This is my fault. It's not. Daehyun gripped her shoulders. This is Marcus manipulating you. It's what he does. He finds what you love and uses it against you. Then what do we do? Jasmine's eyes blazed. Let her die. No, Daehyun said firmly. We go together, but we don't play by his rules. The industrial docks at midnight looked like something out of a nightmare. Abandoned cranes looming like skeletal giants, rusted shipping containers stacked in dark corridors, water lapping against rotting pylons. Jasmine and Daehyun approached cautiously, knowing every shadow could hide an enemy. Floodlights suddenly blazed to life, illuminating a central area where Lonnie sat bound, still alive but terrified. Jasmine! Lonnie's muffled cry cut through the night. Jasmine started forward, but Daehyun caught her arm. Wait! A slow clap echoed across the docks. Two figures emerged from the shadows. Marcus Hale stepped into the light first, tall, silver-haired, wearing an expensive suit that looked absurd in this setting. His smile was cold and calculating. Beside him stood a man who could have been Daehyun's mirror image. Same height, same build, same sharp features. But where Daehyun's eyes held controlled intensity, this man's burned with bitter resentment. Kong Dae-sung. Little brother, Dae-sung said, his voice dripping with venom. I knew you were too weak to resist a damsel in distress, even one that isn't yours. Daehyun's expression remained ice cold. Let the girl go. This is between us. Is it? Marcus interjected smoothly. Because from where I stand, this involves all of us. Your lovely wife cost me my empire. And you, Mr. Kong, represent a significant financial opportunity. You're selling me to my brother, Daehyun said flatly. Delivering you, Marcus corrected, for a substantial fee. Mr. Kong here is quite eager to finally inherit what should have been his all along. Dae-sung stepped forward, his hand resting on the pistol at his waist. You should have died 4 years ago, he said to Daehyun. When father named you heir, he spat on everything I'd sacrificed, everything I'd done for the clan. I offered it to you, Daehyun said quietly. I told you I didn't want it. I was willing to walk away and give you everything. Jasmine's breath caught. She hadn't known that. You think that was mercy? Dae-sung's voice rose. You offering me what was already mine. Like charity? Like pity. It wasn't pity. I didn't want your leftovers. Dae-sung shouted. I wanted you dead. I wanted father to see that he chose wrong. That I was stronger, more ruthless, more worthy. And instead, Dae-hyun said softly, you proved him right. Dae-sung's face twisted with rage. He drew his pistol, aiming it directly at Dae-hyun. On your knees. Now. Jasmine stepped forward. Wait. Shut up. Dae-sung swung the gun toward her. This is your fault too. If you hadn't married him, he'd still be invisible. Still hiding. Still dead to the world. Then shoot me, Jasmine said, her voice steady despite the fear. But let Lonnie go. She has nothing to do with this. Everyone has something to do with this, Marcus said casually. That's the beauty of leverage. Everyone has someone they can't afford to lose. A red laser dot appeared on Dae-sung's shoulder. Everyone froze. Speaking of leverage, Marcus continued, his smile widening. Dae-sung spun around. What are you? The shot rang out. Dae-sung stumbled, clutching his shoulder as blood spread across his shirt. He dropped to one knee, gasping in shock and pain. Marcus stepped back, revealing the sniper rig controller in his hand. Did you really think I needed you alive? Marcus asked conversationally. You were simply a means to an end, a way to draw your brother out. But now that he's here, he turned to Dae-hyun. The Hooksa clan's connections, resources, and networks are far more valuable with both brothers eliminated. I'll simply step in as the new partner to your father's old allies. Chaos erupted. Dae-sung's men, realizing they'd been betrayed, opened fire on Marcus's operatives. Marcus's team returned fire, the docks exploding into a war zone. Lonnie! Jasmine sprinted toward her cousin as bullets whipped past. She reached the chair, yanking the tape from Lonnie's mouth and cutting her bonds with a knife she'd taken from one of the attackers earlier. Jasmine, what's happening? Run. Now. Jasmine shoved Lonnie toward the water's edge where a maintenance ladder led down to a service dock. Lonnie stumbled but obeyed, disappearing into the darkness. Jasmine turned back to see Dae-hyun moving through the chaos like a ghost, disarming enemies, neutralizing threats, heading straight for Marcus. But Marcus was already retreating, his bodyguards covering his escape. Dae-sung, wounded but alive, crawled toward a discarded weapon, his face twisted with hatred and desperation. Jasmine ran to intercept him, kicking the gun out of reach. Dae-sung looked up at her, blood staining his teeth. You think you've won, he gasped. You think this is over? No, Jasmine said quietly. But you're done. Dae-hyun appeared beside her, breathing hard, his eyes cold as he looked down at his brother. You wanted the inheritance so badly, Dae-hyun said. You were willing to kill for it, but you never understood what it actually meant. He turned away from Dae-sung, dismissing him entirely. It means protecting what's yours, not destroying it. Sirens wailed in the distance. The firefight had drawn attention. Dae-hyun took Jasmine's hand. We need to leave. Now. They ran together, leaving behind the burning wreckage of the alliance between Marcus Hale and Kang Dae-sung. As they disappeared into the night, Jasmine realized something profound. The quiet, gentle man she'd married was gone. In his place stood Kang Dae-hyun, not a bodyguard, not a ghost, but the rightful heir of a powerful criminal empire. And for the first time since this nightmare began, Jasmine understood. He'd never been running from his past. He'd been preparing to face it. If you believe in standing up to corruption and betrayal, even when the whole world is against you, drop a subscribe and comment. I stand with the truth. Only those who support manipulation and power-hungry villains like Marcus won't engage. The second safe house was deeper in the city, a renovated loft above a closed auto repair shop that smelled of oil and metal. Dae-hyun had keys to places Jasmine was only now discovering existed. Lonnie sat wrapped in a blanket on the couch, still shaking but physically unharmed. Jasmine had checked her over twice, using her medical training to ensure no injuries beyond bruises from the restraints. I don't understand what's happening, Lonnie whispered. Why did those men take me? Who were they? Jasmine sat beside her, brushing hair from her cousin's face. It's complicated, but you're safe now. That's what matters. Am I? Lonnie's eyes were wide with fear. Are any of us? Jasmine couldn't answer that. Dae-hyun stood by the window, watching the street below with the same vigilance he'd shown since the night everything changed. He hadn't stopped moving, hadn't let his guard down for even a moment. Jasmine recognized the posture now, the constant awareness, the way he positioned himself between them and any potential threat. This wasn't paranoia. This was survival. Lonnie, Jasmine said gently, I need you to rest. We'll explain everything in the morning. But, please. Lonnie nodded reluctantly and retreated to the small bedroom in the back, closing the door behind her. Jasmine stood and walked to where Dae-hyun kept watch. She'll be okay, Jasmine said quietly. For now. Dae-hyun's voice was heavy, but Marcus is still out there. My brother survived, and now everyone knows I'm alive. Jasmine studied his profile in the dim light. You've been carrying this alone for 4 years. I had to. No, Jasmine corrected. You chose to. There's a difference. Dae-hyun finally turned to look at her. I tried to leave that world behind, Jasmine. I wanted a normal life, a quiet life. When I met you, I thought maybe I'd finally found it. But peace isn't something you can just decide to have, Jasmine said. Not when people like Marcus and your brother exist. I know that now. Dae-hyun's expression was pained. I should have told you the truth from the beginning, about who I was, what I came from, the danger I brought with me. Would I have married you if you had? He hesitated. Probably not. Then maybe you made the right choice, Jasmine said, because now I know the truth and I'm still here. Dae-hyun's eyes searched hers. Why? Jasmine took a breath, organizing her thoughts the way she always did, logically, methodically, without letting emotion cloud the facts. Marcus Hale is still out there. He won't stop until he's eliminated anyone who threatens his power. That includes me, you, and now Lonnie. Yes, your brother is wounded but alive. He'll want revenge for being betrayed by Marcus and humiliated by you. Yes. And the Hooksa clan is destabilized. Your father's allies know you're alive now. They'll be making moves, choosing sides, deciding who leads next. Dae-hyun nodded slowly. The moment I stepped back into that world, even to survive, I reignited everything I tried to escape. Exactly, Jasmine said. So running isn't an option anymore. Hiding isn't an option. The only way to protect Lonnie, to protect ourselves, is to eliminate the threat completely. Marcus needs to be stopped. And your clan needs leadership before someone worse than your brother takes control. Dae-hyun turned fully to face her now. You understand what that means. If I go back, if I claim what my father left me, there's no walking away again. Ever. I know. It means becoming exactly what I tried to escape. The violence, the power, the blood. I know, Jasmine repeated firmly, but it also means protecting the people who matter. And right now, that's the only thing I care about. Dae-hyun studied her for a long moment. You could still walk away, he said quietly. Take Lonnie. Disappear. I have resources. I could make sure you're both safe. No. Jasmine's voice was steel. You protected my world when those men came for me. Now I'll protect yours. We end this together. Something shifted in Dae-hyun's expression. Respect, gratitude, something deeper than either. You're not afraid? I'm terrified, Jasmine admitted. But fear doesn't change what needs to be done. You taught me that. Before Dae-hyun could respond, a phone buzzed. Not one of the burner phones. Not Jasmine's phone. An encrypted device Dae-hyun kept in a locked drawer, one Jasmine had never seen him touch. He retrieved it slowly, his face unreadable as he looked at the screen. A single message glowed in the darkness. Dae-hyun, the throne is empty. Come home. Jasmine read it over his shoulder. Your father's allies. They know I'm alive. Dae-hyun's voice was barely a whisper. They're calling me back. What does that mean? It means I have a choice. He looked at her. Return and claim leadership of the Hooksa clan, or refuse and let someone else take power. Probably someone worse than Dae-sung. That's not really a choice, Jasmine said. No, Dae-hyun agreed. It's not. He set the phone down and met her eyes. If we do this, there's no going back to the life we had. The courthouse wedding, the quiet apartment, the normal future we thought we'd build. Jasmine reached out and took his hand. That future was always an illusion, she said. But this, fighting together, protecting each other, facing the truth instead of running from it, that's real. Dae-hyun's grip tightened on her hand. Partners. Partners, Jasmine confirmed. No romance, no illusions, just an unbreakable alliance. For the first time since the alley attack, Dae-hyun allowed himself a small, genuine smile. Then let's finish this. Dawn broke over the city as Dae-hyun and Jasmine stepped out of the safe house. Lonnie was still sleeping inside, protected by security measures Dae-hyun had put in place. As they reached the street, 3 black luxury cars pulled up in perfect formation. Men in dark suits emerged, their movements precise and respectful. The lead figure, an older man with silver hair and sharp eyes, approached Dae-hyun and bowed deeply. Kang Dae-hyun, he said in Korean, his voice reverent. We have waited 4 years for your return. The clan has been adrift without proper leadership. Your father's allies extend their loyalty to you, as is your birthright. Dae-hyun stood tall, no longer the quiet bodyguard, but every inch the heir he was born to be. I accept, he said simply. The man smiled and gestured to the cars. Then come. Your empire awaits. Jasmine stood beside Dae-hyun, not behind him, not separate from him, but as his equal. Together, they stepped toward the waiting cars, toward a world of power, danger, and blood, toward a war that would decide everything, but most importantly, toward a future they would face side by side. The quiet life was over. The real fight was just beginning. If this story hit you differently, if you felt Jasmine and Dae-hyun's fight for truth and survival, subscribe to Ebony and Pearl Stories and drop a comment telling us which moment stayed with you. Your support keeps these stories alive.